And we're back with another Byun game. So, quick review on the format. And here's the deal. Both of these players already advanced to round 2. So they're safe for another best of, I guess. The difference is that if Byun wins this, Byun... I just canceled an Overlord? Okay, well, interesting start for Shin. If Byun were to win this best of 3, he would be top 2 of the round 1 bracket. Which means he would advance to the winners round 2. Which would mean that he's already in GSL. Shin, should he lose this best of 3, would still make it to round 2, but he'd only make it to round 2 losers, which means they're not in GSL until they advance in that bracket. So, whoever wins this is in GSL. Whoever loses this has another chance. I nailed it. I don't know why GSL decided to make it this way. I really don't. I know you have to start doing some things when there's not that many players, but honestly, at this point, I would prefer like a round robin situation. I think that, you know, again, outside of a single elimination format, you're not getting the hypest final moments, right? Because in a round robin, you can kind of start to qualify like halfway through. If you've won all of your games, you basically already qualified, right? But at least it's more trackable. I don't know. And I understand giving the players as many opportunities as possible. When it is already a shortened format, there's not that many players, right? You can give them more opportunities to try and advance. But I feel like this is one of the more complicated ways of seeing a... It's like a double elimination into double elimination, I guess. Anyway, to this point, to this game. Let's talk about this game for a second. Shin goes for a 15 hatch. Does get a pool before, long before gas. Gas only finishing at this point. 6 lings are headed across the map. The Reaper is not going to be able to see that. Does see the Queen already blocking. He wants to check around for the 3rd hatch. Hey, there's lings. 2 Marines are available, actually. These 2 Marines available are pretty big, honestly. If you react appropriately, which none of us do, but Byun does, you pull the SCVs and you micro the Marines away from getting nibbled on, you have enough to deal with 6 lings. Technically, the math of early game units goes 1 Zealot, 3 Marines, I guess, if you micro, right? Because this is the micro that you can do. 1 Zealot, 4 lings, I think. 1 Marine, 2 lings. Yeah. All, just stand your ground and attack, I suppose. Two Marines would struggle if they're all by their lonesome. Pull a couple SCVs, easy peasy. Lemon squeezy, most importantly, well, 2 really important things when this happens. 1, scout if they're going for a Roachborn behind this, little devils. 2, make sure the command center is actually building. Because I don't know how many times I've personally been like, get the ACV on the command center. And I swear to God I click it, and then it's like, what did you want me to do? Build this thing? That's on you, lady. But Byun does this very, very well. Shin doesn't find too many openers from this. Shin, let's really quickly go over him. He did not make it into the last season GSL, right? But he has an opportunity to do so literally right now. If he wins this, he is in GSL. He just will start off in the round of 12 if he doesn't win further. He is typically seen as an aggressive Zerg. He did play a decent amount of macro games, though, versus Protoss, which is actually very odd in this meta. And, you think Shin's aggressive, meta's aggressive, but no, not for Shin. I don't know if he'll be as aggressive in this matchup. I think when it comes to aggression here, we might see a cheese from Shin, maybe. But TvZ doesn't necessarily accommodate that to a significant degree. I mean, Dark, of course, does it, because Dark does whatever the hell he wants. And he's currently, I think, yeah, he's imbuing the spirit of Dark right now with the icon. But I don't know if actually Shin would do that so much. I'm thinking more for Shin, it's just more of attacking into the Terran when you wouldn't expect it maneuvers. And that's sometimes how he gets really surprise victories, where you're just like, oh, this game's going on. Oh, shit, okay, the Terran was totally not prepared for that, and the Zerg player wins. Byun is going 3cc, so nothing particularly interesting on his side of the field. Very, very typical 3cc. I mean, it was the greediest one without a starport, but aside from that, very normal. SHIN going lair, Baneley Nest, Spore Crawlers are actually unnecessary. The bad news for SHIN is that he did not scout the lack of starport. He scouted the third CC with no supply depots at the front, but couldn't see the lack of starport, so. He built the spores. He didn't technically need them. He also doesn't need a second Baneley Nest. Okay, well, that's not, I mean, that's not helpful. What would a second Baneling upgrade be, if you could think of one? Like the campaign where they can jump. Imagine jumping Banelings, good lord. Anyway, that's completely useless. I can't wait till it's the backup Banelingness that saves the day, though. 2 evolution chambers are finally on the way. SHIN will eventually realize he built 2 of them and shake his head. He's SMHing. Byun totally ready to go at this point. Sims done. Medivacs are out. Marines are ready. And SHIN also has to be ready. 3cc. You gotta prepare for the attack. Actually, as soon as 5:30, technically. But, yeah, 6 minutes for the Marines to come. Pretty typical. Queens and Lings should do the trick. We do have a decent amount of Lings. 43 of them on the field. SHIN needs to protect this 4th base. He does so very well. 5th base is also on the way. Needs to bump that drone count up if he's really going to play into the macro game. And the Hydralisk Den is down. Marines are actually still sharking around a little bit. Little bit. Banelings are now being made in case there are more Marines. In fact, if there is a push on the way, you will need Banelings, and there is indeed a push. SHIN has a lot of creep spread to work with, and he's got a decent amount of army, too. He did not add on those 10 extra drones that maybe some other Zergs would have. Starting to add on a little bit here and there, but very much aware of the incoming attack. Baneling speed is already done. This puts him in a very good defensive position. 5th base also could be a backup if things really go to shit here. I don't think they will. Nice siege position from Byun. He is grabbing a 4th command center, by the way, which is important to note. SHIN will want to note that as soon as he deals with this. Drones, part of the fight. Get him, guys. Hellbats, a limited number, but still helping a little bit. SHIN waiting to the very last possible second to try and push into this. 30 more Lings are on the way. 1-1, nowhere close to completing. That is very unfortunate. He is going to go for the swarm. Here we go, coming in from all different angles, trying to get this around on the Marines. Will barely, yes, get it. 2 Medivacs only. Limited space. Some of those Marines were left for dead. But SHIN does hold the attack at 71 drones as well. He is good. Perhaps if the assault stops, we can add on a few more, and that's exactly what he does. 3 barracks are on the way now, but again, it was 4th CC along before that, so we are getting into the later stages of the game. 2nd factory also completed. 2-2 ahead, very far ahead of SHIN's. SHIN did not quite have the gas. He tries to afford his upgrades, his Hydra upgrades, and of course the actual Hydras themselves. Little attack on the right, little attack on the left. SHIN with a good split by the looks of things. Tank's very far back. And this is all hatch creep spread, man. Can't really move into that. Byun is going to get his 4th command center on location. 5th is already prepared to build. SHIN trying to go for a 6th. Yeah, Byun probably wanted to try and snipe that because it was so low in health, but the Marines couldn't get into range safely. Lurkerdan is on the way, Infestation Pit as well. Getting into that hive technology for a Zerg player. As Byun starts to add on Marauders. As 2-2 will also finish up very, very soon. He's controlled the creep spread pretty well. And is still looking for an opportunity. Those Spore Crawlers from earlier used now for the anti-Medivac help, and they are helping. These 2 Medivacs very, very injured. Hydra's Queen, Spore Crawler, oh my, that was not what Byun was hoping for. Byun loses the presence on the left, meaning SHIN can collapse in on the right. Wary of the Widowmines that are now included. Triple Widowmine production. Fourth base is a planetary. SHIN has not tried any run buys, just so far totally defensive. But it is working out for him, at least to get to that hive. Somehow Byun gets up to 81 SCVs. It's a lot. Oh, that's a good would have mine hit. And SHIN finally gets to 82. Zerg should usually be ahead. That's a lot of Ling Baneling and not a lot of splash. Would have mine's not really available, and that means Byun will eventually have to pick up and leave. He took a very long time to pick up and leave. And there was not really anything else happening. And SHIN is also prepared for something else happening. Not only does he have an army over there, but he's about to have lurkers. That really complicates attempted drops and run-bys. SHIN feeling confident after that engagement is going to go for the 5th base. Tank on the high ground is helping. Still has to worry about his 5th, but looks like lurkers also were formed down to the south. And that 5th base is going to be totally A-okay, no problem. Lurker upgrades are now in the way as the hive is done. So we're also going to get +3 Carapace, potentially adrenal glands too. 91 drones. That's what I'm talking about for late game. There you go. 2 extra command centers. Ghost Academy. Full-on late game situation here. Beyond his Medivacs are a little late. But trying to control the creep spread once again. Trying to find opportunities. It's so difficult though when SHIN's done a really great job deflecting everything so far. Having things already ready to go in case there is a split he wasn't anticipating. And then adding on lurkers to that, it just adds such a layer of complexity to trying to be the extreme multitasker. It's a lot easier to read if you can run and gun if there aren't burrowed units. So things are going to have to slow down here for Byun. That's not necessarily a bad thing. He is very familiar with this type of meta and this type of situation. Trying to run away right now from the encroaching army. The Baneling's barely going to make a connection. Planetary, unfortunately, does fall, and we also have this planetary under attack. Baneling's looking for the SCVs. We'll find the planetary. We do have extra command centers. They will be replaced very quickly. And I don't actually know if that was quite cost-efficient. I mean, Zerg's not going to be the more cost-efficient one, of course. Of course. But, I mean, literally, as far as the amount of banelings for the planetary, because they didn't kill that many SCVs, and the army didn't really trade out either. And usually something else happens when you see engagements like that. But literally just those banelings for the planetary. Also, with the fact that you can replace at least one of these very, very quickly. I guess I don't hate it, I don't love it, you know? Yeah. Come see, come saw. One lurker is left behind just in case it could catch, I guess, a unit's not paying attention. Nidus Worm is on the way. Main base could be kind of wide open. No Overseers over there yet, though. Woodamine's giving a little heads up to Byun. By the way, Byun's 3-3 is done, so he is working on all of the building upgrades. We also got personal cloaking for the ghosts. I would actually like to see eventually, as the game continues going on and on and on and on. Caduceus Reactor. Here we go. You got to prepare yourself to say Caduceus Reactor. But yeah, the Medivac upgrade, it's useful. It's not an upgrade that you're going to get immediately, unless you're, you know, like Helazur would do it sometimes, but I think it is useful. Is it an EMP on the Overseers? I actually can't explain that EMP. Someone explain it for me. Maybe Habit. I don't know what that was, but yeah, pulling back was far more important. 4 extra command centers, 2nd starport, Liberators, so Fusion Core could also get Lib range. Overseer goes into the main base, Nidus Worm is there as well, Beyond with a very quick response, only sending a handful of units back, meanwhile keeping a very good amount of units on the front lines. What's really important right now is that Byun never gets caught without the correct composition, so if 12 lurkers show up in one base and he only has Marine Marauder, that's tough. But if his ghosts are all there, then that's tough on SHIN. And right now, Byun is doing a really good job about that. Scan and Concave, nicely done. Nidus Worm gets killed before the reinforcements can come over. I do like this idea, though, this Brood War Nidus Worm, if you will, the type that is going to reinforce and allow an escape for the drones as well. We saw Cyril doing a lot of this in the finale of EWC last year. He didn't win because of it, but it was still cool to see. Scans to try and see where the Overseer is. He needs a Ghost over here to get the Snipe, or a Viking, or a Liberator. I mean, Liberator's going to take forever, but it gets the job done. hoping the Banelings would lose energy, right? Stopping Overseers? Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you know, the Changelings can also do a little body blocking is another good point. Yeah, I guess it's not the worst thing. I mean, it probably doesn't happen every single engagement, but certainly enough for Byun to say it's worth getting that out of the way. Yeah, you're probably right. There's so many Overseers. He's never not going to see these ghosts. By the way, we have 16 of them. That's a good army. SHIN's going to need to basically find more opportunities to drag armies away from each other so that you do eventually find the lurkers on the bio and the Ling Baneling on top of the ghosts. But Byun is really locking up his side of the map. Taking a forward engagement, finds the army, says, why not? Let's do it. But then he is missing the Nidus Worm, though. Okay, yeah, he finds it. The Nidus Worm's going to pop. That is 100%. But what is going to pop with it? Army goes for the planetary? No, decides to go for the army instead. Now, that's a lot of Marauders and Ghosts. The Banelings won't trade out terribly efficiently. Gonna now go after the planetary. Barely saved, barely saved, barely saved. And Nidus Worm is also not finding a lot of damage in the main base. Lurkers, typically terrifying when they get up in the main, but that was actually a really nice handling, despite it being last second. We do have Caduceus on the way after Lib Range. Really happy to see that Byun is getting that, you know, automatically in this late game scenario, getting all his ducks in a row. +1 ship weapons, too, alongside plating. It's going to help the Medivacs and the Wood Mines, but obviously the Liberator's going to become a bigger and bigger key part of this map. Every party at this point in time is starting to run out of ideas of what they have on the field right now. We're going to run out of upgrades to upgrade. SHIN has some other technology paths, sure, like Ultras, but you know, why would you build Ultras into this army? And Broodlords aren't what they used to be. This is kind of the extent for SHIN, trying to catch Byun out of position. Gonna delay this base at the very least, but this is his 7th base. Oh, the 6th is gonna go down. That's a goner. That's a goner. Where the hell is Byun's army? Everywhere and nowhere. I think he needs a little F2 to help him out here. We got Frenzy on the way for the Hydras, too. That is so many Overseers. Good lord. No EMP necessary. They're kind of already out of energy. Baneling still trying to crash in. Last second split. Byun trying to mitigate the damage as he was pretty unprepared. So far, the most unprepared fight. But the most important thing is that Byun stands his ground. He might lose command centers. He might lose some army. But he has extras. And assuming he does not find himself out of position again, he does have a very strong defensive army. So this is one of maybe 3 chances that Byun gets to take that damage and still be okay in the game. But anything more than that, and he is starting to lose. And SHIN finally found that good opportunity attack. Oh my god. 14,000 resource difference. Still makes us look dire for the Zerg, but that is the end goal for the Terran, really. They want to take these defensive fights, and they want to exhaust the Zerg player. SHIN at 3,000, bank. It's really not that comfortable. And he's starting to run out of bases. This one's fresh, actually. This one's fresh. No, not fresh. Just not mining. Good on SHIN. He's moving the drones to the outer bases, so when they do collapse, he can run back to still a sufficient amount of mining. It's something I think everyone has kind of like theorized, like it's logical, of course, but to actually see it every single game for Zerg players, that's a real improvement of StarCraft 2 mechanics, I would say. It's easier said than done, and the mantra for StarCraft 2, I guess. And now we see Zerg players doing it every single game. Infestors are on the way. Yeah, spellcasters would be useful. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Ultras no, Broodlords no. Spellcasters, yeah, that makes sense. That is the one thing we've been missing. Stop those snipes, which haven't been the biggest part of the game anyway, but just stop the army in general would be much better. That is no splash that I can see for the Terran, and that might be the problem here. Byun almost entirely surrounded. Only part of his army was surrounded, thankfully. And one again, yeah, one more planetary fallen. One more down. Technically, Overseers are spellcasters. He doesn't win this bullshit. So many changelings just trying to sneak into the main. 10 corruptors are on the way. I do not believe that is broodlords. We do not have a greater spire. That is for the liberators. Depending on hydras is a bit sketch. More upgrades for both parties. Where are those infestors? They're in the Nidus Worm? That's an no, they're right there. SHIN, now 16,000 resources in the hole. It looked like he had a good surround opportunity in the last fight, but that clearly was not a good fight. That made things even worse for him. Liberators, this time around, not going to stay up forever. But the Corruptors do need to be mindful of their pullback timing. Infestor also scanned. Nicely done. Byun, I don't know if he caught wind of an Infestor or just thought that would be a good idea, but that was a very good idea to scan ahead. Lurker harassment, not really going to do a whole lot. Byun with a very quick response while simultaneously going for the attack. Yeah, I'm more on board with this EMP on the Overseers thing. This is annoying. And SHIN really needs to be concerned at this point. Not only does he need to stop Byun from taking this base and taking the minerals along with it, but he also absolutely needs this base. Lurker repositioned by the looks of things, but it is going to be taken care of. Fortunately, libs do not attack buildings. Something else has to. But how many libs are we at? 14! We have decreased our ghost count and increased our lib count. Double Nidus Worm, by the way. Double rainbow. Going to be handled once again. Liberators thinking they had an opportunity to find the Corruptors thinking they found the opportunity to kill the Liberators, but ghosts were left behind. Missile turrets being built to help out. They do have high-sec auto-tracking as well. That planetary does look like a goner. How much will SHIN lose for it, though? At this point in time, we are starting to worry, I think, about our usage of Banelings. I know there's still a lot of mining to be done on the map, but you're taking extreme losses in the resources trade against Terran at this point. 20,000. It's been steadily increasing, and its disparity, not a good sign for SHIN. I always like, Nathaniel's pointed this out, the, streamer Turtler. Engineering bays around the planetary, they're quite healthy and quite cheap. If they stop the surrounds or if they soak up Banelings instead of the planetary, then good on you. Even walls, of course, engineering bays. If they could still lift, if they were Brood War engineering bays, oh man, I think we would absolutely see engineering bay walls. 100%. The Doom army is approaching, man. This is scary stuff. No attempt at Vipers, by the way, which I empathize with. I mean, I don't know if it is a good idea for professional Zerg not to use them, but I can see why it'd be difficult. Look at all these ghosts still available, 13 of them. We've moved away from bio, honestly. We're kind of into spooky mech territory. Not even really spooky air mech, I guess? There's obviously no tanks, so... But yeah, the Vipers, they'll get EMP'd, they'll get sniped. It's difficult to look at this type of setup and not think we need some type of range. And Corruptors are obviously ranged, but they're not that long of a range, and they're very slow accelerators. They take a long time to run back. Infestor does come into play. Some ghosts are fungold, some Vikings as well, but mostly everything gets to run back through the lib range. Through the zones. Oh my god. Oh my god. Chaos and carnage every which way we look. Missile turrets helping out against the Corruptors. Vikings still in the fight as well. Liberators trying to be targeted maybe by the looks of things. And there's so few Marines on the ground, if any. The Corruptors are not getting slaughtered as you might expect, running over an entire Terran force. Byun falls down in supplies. SHIN goes for the Remax. Did that work? I don't think it did. I mean, it might. It might have. That might have worked. SHIN gonna flood the zone with Lings at this point. Byun would be, I think, better off going for that bio-production once again. Liberators still have Corruptors in the sky to handle, and you don't want to stop making Liberators, but maybe only a couple at this point. Basically, you know that the Remax is happening. And you're not going to beat a Zerg's Remax, but you can try and match it a little better. And it looks like Byun, even though he fell down, what was it, like 40, 50 supply? Has been able to recover it. He has no bank. This is just pure consistent mining happening, the mules on this orbital that was well placed, so it could quickly replace any buildings that fell. That was pretty important. Because he is looking for cash. He is looking between the sofa cushions. But he has held, and that was a increase in the resource loss for SHIN. Once again, coming in here, so many Liberators. I don't know if that was the right call at this point, but maybe it is, because the ghosts are here, all of them. Well placed, well defended, 13 ghosts waiting for the snipe. SHIN was like, no thank you. Probably a wise decision. 20 Corruptors. Yeah, they'll handle the Liberators whenever they can find them, but they obviously don't help on the ground. And it looks like Byun, thinking this is his time to shine, gonna go for yet another Zerg base. Baneling's trying to crash in. They won't be particularly effective. When again, Corruptors, you know, they can kill the Medivacs. Yes, that is true, but now they're gonna get sniped. One more Infestor, as all of them have died by the looks of things. Infestors not more Infestors, but more involved in every single fight. Probably could have changed some of these fights. You know, we've seen... Oh, whoops. Apparently he had a lot of Overlords. Scan ahead's gonna reveal an Infestor too. Ugh, SHIN's starting to lose a little bit here, isn't he? He actually rebuilds the Overlords that he apparently did not even need. That his 500 minerals that must be better off elsewhere. This hatchery that is now gone is now right for a command center to take. SHIN might be screwed at this point. Just trying to think of how else he can take care of this army, but Wood Mines are now in place too, giving the Terran a lot of time to pull back. And the Banelings do not want to be trying to run into a well-prepared Terran off of creep. 66 slings are on the way. Is that truly going to help, however? Oh no, oh no, oh no! Woohoo! So much damage on the Corruptors. Byun also getting quite a big bank, by the way. Done looking for pennies. He's now throwing $20 bills onto his bed and rolling around in it. SHIN seems a little less confident, doesn't he? 27 minutes into this game. And he has not been able to break the Terran. My confidence would also start to shake a little bit. Army once again being able to pull back behind the libs, behind the Widow Mines, into a concave, into the reinforcements. More Liberators! This actually ends up killing a lot of Byun's supply, to be honest. And now Byun's problem might be in the gas. 3,000 minerals is a lot of Marines. And Marines might be perfect, because, you know, SHIN doesn't have a lot of resources in general. His Remax is on 42 Lings, 5 Overlords, and 6 Overseers. Command Center was going to boldly take this base. It is going to be shoved off. Byun forced to use the bank here, realizing he's out of gas. Now having maybe a little panic attack. He's not remaxing as fast as you would like. You don't know what the capabilities of the Zerg is. This game is hard to read when you're actually playing it. And Byun is only down 30 army supply. And I think his army supply is just more efficient. Eventually these Corruptors will just be dangling in the sky, unable to kill anything further. Although another command center will fall because of them. More snipes coming down. Not quite getting the last shots on the Corruptors, though. And that's, I think, actually been kind of an important thing in this game. Even though the snipes have always looked so prepared for the Corruptors, when they actually went off, there wasn't enough of them to kill them. The Corruptor count has stayed kind of high. I mean, 23 have died, which is a lot of money. A lot. But I guess I'm saying I would have expected that to be 30-plus Corruptors dead instead. So many times the Corruptors have gotten away with only one snipe on them instead of you need 2 or 3. Byun getting his gas. He has a rich Vespian to take too, so that's going to really help here. Other gases they're just expended actually. It's not a Terran forgetting to get their gas problem. But Marines are a good unit. Infestor, yeah, goes into missile range. Sorry, buddy. Greater Spire is on the way. Yeah. I don't know about Broodlords. There are better use of the Corruptors to handle the ground, aren't they? But it's take a long time to get to, and they're still countered by snipes. Orbital Command gonna live this time. SHIN did not find the timing he needed, unfortunately. Once again, sending Byun down to the 130s looks like such a great moment for the Zerg player, but the Remax did not come fast enough. There wasn't a severe lack of army for Byun when the dust settled. And Byun, with his bank of minerals, is building an army that counters this one. All right, you know, if SHIN did Remax on Ultras, Lurkers, Infestor, Viper, Broodlord, you know, somehow, I don't know. Then yeah, Mass Marine probably isn't the best thing to do. But at this point, Byun has met the energy of SHIN. And we know that Marines in a tight ball, microed appropriately, is just much better than Ling. And Ling Baneling if it's off creep, not surrounded. 7 Broodlords. These are the last resources that SHIN's really going to be able to get here, guys. He's running out of minerals, does have some gas to take. This base just completely denied. This is the last healthy base, I guess. 8 Broodlords will be a surprise, to be fair. But Byun, I don't think he has to be that scared of it. Infestor plus Broodlord is an ultimate combination, though, isn't it? Finally, we have some action on the north. The north has been almost completely untouched in this game. It's kind of crazy. Drops didn't happen past minute 17, I think. And run-bys haven't happened. Not bothering. But this might... Eventually, this might move to that top left base being the most important. This base is also important. Broodlords have made an appearance. Fungals do come out. Only grab 1 ghost. The Marines are pretty good here to be the body blockers, to be the DPS to kill the Broodlings. So the snipes can go down is what I'm saying. That's the most important thing. Lings try and come in as well. EMPs blanket the Infestor. Still a lot of bio left over with a nice concave. And the Broodlings just don't have the same power that they used to. Their true power is that they're limitless, sure. But I mean, as far as them darting straight after the Marines and getting them out of the equation, still gonna need the Banelings to do that. Still a very close game. Byun does have a 30 army supply lead. Spores being added on the front, why not? Top left base is gonna go down. That's some gas that Byun could use. He could lift an orbital over there. Big attack though, big attack. This actually could be a game deciding attack. Byun no longer in a concave, forced to retreat. Very scared of the fungal happening. The Banelings are starting to fall. But where are the Broodlords? Following up on it, the snipes need to be here, and they are getting killed currently. 7 ghosts available. Cloak does save the day temporarily. Very temporarily. Where is the rest of Byun's army? Picks up a Medivacs, unloaded at this point. 1 Viking to try and help out against the last possible Corruptor. Hydra is now the anti-air for the Broodlords. Byun might have been caught a little bit with his pants down. Didn't quite see the beginning of that fight, but when you see the Terran all balled up like that, running away desperately from this round, that's when the Zerg looks pretty powerful. If they can get us around, if they can get the fungal, if the Broodlords are involved. 19 SCVs go down, but we're not really talking about that very much anymore, are we? Byun has a lot of orbitals. If he gets a base, he'll have mules. Finds an opportunity to kill some drones. Get that Spore Crawler. Get it. Vikings also trying to kill Broodlord. Managed to find 1. Hydra's going for the Vikings specifically. Bio trying to make a stand. Actually will make a stand. Byun was right on that call. And now the Broodlords are a little bit of trouble. Still no fungal, I suppose, although it's getting very, very close. Once again, trying to make the stand against the Broodlings, trying to make this work. Snipe kills yet another Broodlord. Byun down, 30 overall supply, but a completely even army. Oh my god, 1 fungal, for the love of God, where the fuck is the fungal? Why don't you crew energy faster? A fungal would have saved his life over and over and over again. Here it goes. Here we go. Fungal kind of misses. 1 Marauder gets caught. That wasn't good enough. SHIN running out of room. Literally running out of room. Oh my god. 4 ghosts in a dream. Once again taking down a Broodlord. The Broodlings still kind of mattering, though, but not enough. The Hydras are gone, the Infestors are gone, the Fungals don't matter anymore, and with Byun's last army... Oh my god, he's gonna win the game. What a ballsy decision. I can't believe he stood his ground on all of those last fights. This one in particular, I was like, I don't... But he fucking won, wow. GG's. What a game one. In the bottom left, we have SHIN. In the top right, it is Byun. What a finale. Yeah, there was a tiny part of the game where it was getting a little redundant. Started going into the definition of insanity. On the side of SHIN, anyway. But SHIN did a lot of appropriate things, trying to match the composition of his opponent correctly. Corruptors can seem like such a money sink. But they did the trick against the Liberators for the most part. And a couple of almost surrounds. One or two more Fungals could have also been huge. Could have been huge. Right, there's a lot of things in a 30-minute game that could be done differently. On the side of Byun, I think just maybe a few of those engagements not starting off absolutely perfectly positioned. Totally ready for it with a concave, with snipe ready to go. With enough AoE at a couple of those fights as well. He just didn't have any Widow Mines that I saw. And 0 tanks too. And actually that is a little different. It's not totally unique, but I would say a lot of the time you get into those super late game scenarios and a couple of tanks are available. Tanks on the ledges, near the planetaries, behind like defensive ledges, like here, all the way back here, but still, like, there's usually a couple. And even in some other late game ZVTs, it's still a lot. Like 10 tanks scattered around the map. And we just went tankless. But either way, any amount of AoE, I think, was missing from some of those big fights. But other than that, I don't have a lot of critique for Byun, who I think mostly did everything as one would expect. Bit better of engagements, bit better of, you know, being prepared for them, I suppose, and then maybe more AoE at all times. But then SHIN... It's not that I think SHIN played worse, and that's why I have more to suggest. It's just, when you are talking about trying to break the Turtler, I think you're talking a lot more about what the aggressor can do than the defender. And so SHIN, you know, theoretically could have gone for a Nidus Worm more frequently. He could have gone for crackling Nidus Worms to the, call them like the accessory bases. The bases that were still mining and still blocked avenues to the production. Like the 3rd, 4th, 5th, you know, on the left north side. You know, more attacks over there. They could have drawn the army away. Because it all got really consolidated down to the bottom right for a very long time in that game. Fungals earlier? Or more consistent? As I was pointing out. I don't know, it's there's a lot that you could think of, but we also have the benefit of seeing every single portion of Byun's base and seeing where he's weak. And after a minute 22, 20, I don't know. After some minute, SHIN was no longer able to kind of throw and see what sticks. You know, for a while he was comfortable on 7-8 bases or whatever it was. He was with the big bank. He was delaying Byun's bases or killing them. And maybe he could just have thrown everything around and been like, let's see what happens. But eventually you can't do that anymore. And then when you stop trying to think to see what openings there are, it can be very easily to assume that there are no openings. And maybe there aren't. Maybe there aren't. I'm not saying I'm right here. Like, Byun might have been happy for SHIN to throw army off to the left side, in which he would lift the command center, let the planetary take out the Lings, and then, I don't know, have no problem responding. And Byun did do a really good job. Really good job of splitting his army during some of the early late game that we had, where it was very clear SHIN was trying to catch him off guard, Ghost in the wrong place, Bio in the wrong place. It's a very tough game for this Zerg. Very, very, very tough. Roachborn is on the way. SHIN gonna change up his composition, but he might not change up his aggressiveness. You know, going for a 1-1 Roach all-in would be one way to make sure that's not, you know, his own super macro game. But we've also seen the Roachborn lead into just very defensive play. Byun did not go for 3cc immediately this time. He did go for a starport, so it is 3cc, of course. But the starport is there. The Banshees are out. SHIN will need those Spore Crawlers he got so carefully last game, and he does have them. Byun doesn't see the Roachborn. Technically, he should not see the Roachborn. It is possible to hide Roach production in a Roach 1-1 until the Roaches, you know, make an appearance on the other side of the map. We've seen it. Ling Queen does a great job bullying back the Hellions. The Queens never, or the Banshees never get close enough to see anything significant. 5 Overlords are on the way. I think we're going to have that swell 1-1 as well. So now the question is, how long can SHIN hide that he is going Roaches? Queens push back those Banshees. Hellions don't think they have an opportunity, so they're not going to run on by into the natural. Infestation Pit, though. Okay, so nope, not going to be the 1-1 Roach all-in, even though we did have an Overlord burst a little bit. That is seemingly just for the defense of the, 6.5 potential move-out, 7-minute move-out. Byun still doesn't know about this, and that's still concerning, even though it's not the all-in. Him going up against Roaches when he was expecting Ling Baneling is still a bit awkward. He is still producing tanks, and that's good. He will want tanks eventually as we go into the late game. Hive, Roach becomes Roachling, Baneling. Yeah, Widowmines could be added in, but right now, tanks probably the best. Byun's not very eager to move out at all. Hive is on the way, 6:45. SHIN is trying to play to the macro game with Roachling, Baneling. Gonna open up this choke as well. Why not? Don't have much else to do as you wait for these upgrades, wait for the Terran push. And here it comes. 3 Raxes are being added on, by the way, before the 4th command center. Bit awkward, I would say, to go 8 Rax against someone who does have Roach Ravager, Ling Baneling. But because it is macro, it's not a maxed out Roach army, which would then now be pouncing on Byun's army, saying, haha, you moved out. And then Byun would have, I think, a lot of trouble. This is SHIN trying to play defensive. So, 8 Rax, it's just a little funky because a lot of times it's very Marine-based, and Marines aren't usually what you want against Roach Ravager. But I think it can work, of course. The 8 Rax is still scary for someone trying to get a lot of technology out all at once. SHIN already at 78 drones, by the way. I mean, Byun does need to make moves. Loses a tank. Really wanted to be quite cautious about running through this choke. Viper's immediately gotten. I think we're seeing a safer approach to the late game here for SHIN than some of the other defenses against an 8 Rax that we saw in the last GSL qualifiers. Roach Ravager, just the Roaches in particular, able to stand up against the Marines a little bit better. Baneling's obviously still with those connections. Baneling's speed will finish very soon. Thanks, guys, for making game hurt. Ultralisk Cavern is on the way. And we are getting Marauders, but it's very difficult to afford 8 Racks of Marauder, Marine, Tank, upgrades, all that on only 3 bases. So we do have the 4th base added on, but what we're missing here is a, quicker 4th base, obviously, but then also we're missing a 2nd factory. But I do think Byun is not capable of winning with the 8 Racks totally and entirely. He's got to have a bit of a backup plan. Yeah. Collapsible tower, providing that choke. Tanks want to go up against that. SHIN wants to get rid of it, but not going to the opportunity. 4 tanks is good, not great. You're just going to be limited on your production. SHIN's base is so far untouched. Plenty of time to soak up juice on the Vipers as well. Blinding Clouds coming down. Really nice Blinding Clouds. Perfect Blinding Clouds on every last tank. And the bio is being decimated. Slaughtered. No contest. I don't think Byun realized what the build actually was. And I think SHIN made sure not to play it overly cautiously. Again, getting up to 78 drones ASAP, getting up to his hive ASAP, getting Vipers ASAP, all while taking 0 damage. Makes the game look easy. Mule drops as Byun does realize he's going to barely hold against this. Ravagers are going to be taken down, but we got a Ling Flood as well as an Ultra Flood. Oh, no. Oh, the Ultras. Not the Ultras. Vipers come in for potentially a Parasitic Bomb. Yeah, Parasitic Bomb. And I was going to say a Blading Cloud, but I guess it's not necessary. Abduct on the tank. That was positioned there. Yep, nicely done. Shin's going to have to wait for those Ultras, though. He will have to wait for the Ultras. Byun will have a moment to breathe. Just a moment. And while a Marauder army is better than a Marine army against Ultras, 70 supply down. No ghosts. Byun thinks he can win against this, but only if he micros perfectly and that doesn't get surrounded. He got surrounded, guys. Sorry to tell you. 2 Vipers still in play, too, so these Parasitic Bombs will continue coming. Medivacs are out of juice anyway. Not really doing a lot of healing. More Medivacs being produced. A very sustained type army. Not a lot of burst and SHIN. Reinforcing with Ling. Ravager Ultra. That's kind of what he's doing right now. Liberators would also be helpful, though. 4th Planetary, not going to happen. Ultra's going for a potential run-by, scouted by a supply depot. Byun not willing to tap out of this game. Yes, he is. Just kidding. He is absolutely willing to tap out of this game. What happened? I think he ran into the Ultras. Hug me! Yeah, he was pretty dead. GG's. Medivacs are juice. Now the final game here. Top right, SHIN. Bottom left, Byun. Again, whoever wins is in GSL. Whoever loses is not technically in GSL, but has many other chances to be in GSL. Yeah. That's how that works. So who's it going to be? SHIN actually looks really strong right now. I'm not typically the biggest SHIN fan because every time I think he's not going to play well, he plays well. And every time I think he's going to play well, he doesn't play well. And he has a little bit of a reputation of being a hero killer, I guess. Not hero, the player, but rather the fan favorite gets killed by SHIN. And then SHIN kind of never becomes the fan favorite because of that. And there was one other reason. Oh, because sometimes I have to cast games that are really bad for him. I will never forget that Maru vs. SHIN round of 4 match. What a stinker. But anyways, despite me being incredibly unfair to SHIN, no doubt today he is playing very, very good. The first game, I would say I was more impressed with him for the first half. And the last 4 minutes, I was more impressed with Byun. I mean, they both are playing at a pretty equal level, to be clear. It just, I thought SHIN was really playing a great macro game. And then he plays a pretty perfect game number 2. Certainly benefited from the lack of scouting of Byun. Either Byun scouts the intentions of his opponent. He sees the hive, he sees the infestation pit, he sees the incredible amount of drones, which is much harder to do, but still. He sees it, and he pushes the 8 racks faster, harder, stronger. Tries to win with it, well, instead of waiting at the bridge. Or he scouts it and says, oh, shit. Okay, never mind. I didn't mean to 8 racks anyway. And then gets a 4th base faster than he did. Probably still not before in 8 racks, but if he scouted what it was before he threw down 3 extra barracks, I think he goes for a 4th command center. Or he pushes much harder. But he was really... I don't think he had all the information, despite having some of the tools. But like I noted, SHIN had to play that very confidently. It is a safe style. Roach, Ravager, Ling, Baneling. It is pretty safe. We see Cyril do a lot of it, right? And Clem's able to pick him apart, but it's very difficult to do. Still, as a Zerg player up against who knows what exactly, because I'm not sure Shin knew that it was an 8 racks either. He might have anticipated it. That is a pretty popular map for 8 racks, and 8 racks is definitely in the meta. So there is that. But anyway, if you don't know exactly what your Terran opponent is doing, it's very difficult for a Zerg player to confidently 100% drone. It's always that little bit of like, I could add 10 drones and I could be totally good, or I could totally die. Shit. And Shin just played it very confidently. All the drones he needed, all the technology he needed, all the bases he needed. Byun gonna go back to his 3cc starport. Hellions on the way, so Lings are on the way. Good old TvZ opener, no surprises as of yet. Or the Maru Shin GSL final. Yeah, Shin does not do well against Maru, specifically. But yeah, he's a hard man to read, honestly. Another Roachborn. Liked what he did last game. Could change it up, though. If Byun is going to be a little more eager to get the scout, well, he certainly is going to get the scout here. He is going to get punished for the Hellion move-in, though. Yeah, going to lose all but one Hellion. Yeah, but he saw the Roachborn. The thing is that Shin could go for a Roach attack. That's not the end-all, be-all of scouting for Byun. But at least he knows that. At least he knows that. That is something he did not know for a very long time in the last game. And then eventually you saw the roaches, but you still don't know exactly if it's the all-in or not. And eventually there's not enough roaches, and you're like, oh, it's not the all-in, but still. Fortunately for Byun, he did go up to 6 Hellions, so he does still have 3 at home. Kind of the perfect amount to deal with Lings. Technically 2 can do the trick. 1 really can't. 3 is pretty good. A lot of drones and a lot of gas. So Shin liked what he did last game. He's going to do it again. And Byun needs a scan, probably in the main or the natural, to see if there's an infestation pit. To get a proper idea as to what his opponent is doing. Byun may be trying to get a read, which is the Hellion presence. Shin, as I pointed out for the last game, didn't really have a lot of scouting. I don't think he knew it was an 8 racks. Once again, not going to get into the main soon. The 4th CC will come down generally here. And so that, in a way, can be a scout for the Zerg player. If you do not see a 4th CC around, let's say, 7 minutes, then you might assume that it is an 8 racks. Nice wall there as Shin does take out the Hellions. Infestation Pit's on the way. 4th CC, still in vision of the Overlord. 6:32, so pretty quick. No 8 racks today. Byun caught in such a weird position last game. But this does mean that Shin can, again, very confidently get to exactly where he wants to be. All the drones, all the bases, all the Vipers. It's just that Byun won't be stuck between a rock and a hard place. Kind of all-inning, realizing he can't really do it, and then having a very poor macro game after. Should also have a better composition. You know, he'll actually be able to afford double tanks. He'll actually be able to add on a Ghost Academy. Probably. Scan of the natural does not reveal what Byun was really looking for there. You'd still have, you know, at least 3 gases if you're going Roach Ravager all in, but the time is ticking, and the more the time ticks, the more the roaches are not hitting across the map, the more you figure it out. Byun making sure to keep his tanks at home, of course, but yeah, there's not going to be a big attack on the way. The 2 medevacs can feel confident being out in the map. They might not finally damage, but they can be out in the map. 2-2 starts up for Byun as 2-1 starts up for SHIN. Already got that missile done. Baneling Nest researching as well. Got a 5th base on the way for SHIN. A lot of creep spread down to the south, too. Byun is going to want to get rid of some of that. Ultralists are going to be the game plan. Drilling Claws is on the way. I don't think you never go Widow Mines if your opponent is going for the same build, the same ultra late game. Literally ultras late game. But, you know, maybe you still produce the tank from the tech lab. Maybe you do both. But it looks like he's going to entirely swap over into Widow Mines. Widow Mines are funny. You know, generally agreed upon. They are not good against ultras, but they do ignore armor. So, I mean, they do a decent amount of damage to it. But it's more about trying to get rid of the Ling Baneling that is collapsing on you, trying to go for this around. To make the ultras capable of giving you a big ol' hub. And he is 4 tanks, which is a pretty safe number, I suppose. Medevacs go into the main and see the Hive and see not the Ultra Cavern. That's in the natural. And I think at this point he knows that it's the same thing as last game. Tech Lab's being added on as you would. Marauder slow, hopefully remembered. Planetary is up. Little Sim City with the 5th base too. Sensor towers are missing currently. I think we'll get that eventually. Oh! Sorry guys. Abducts. Wah! Oh, there we go. I think the patrol killed it. You bastard. It was gonna live. He was gonna live! Yeah. That is not a drop. That is a push drop. Is that the right word for it? There's 2 medevacs. Will not be able to fit all that army in. But it's also not all of Byun's army, whose tanks are still at home. Widow Mine's at home for the most part, and definitely some reinforcements. SHIN forced to respect it, I suppose. I mean, he'd definitely win if he just collapsed in on it, but he doesn't know what's behind it. His ultras are out. His plating isn't done. That might be why he's hesitant to go. +2 Carapace almost finished up as well. Overseer speed, yeah. 3 extra command centers for the Terran. Marauder slow was remembered, and a Ghost Academy. So late game it is. As much of a late game as game 1? I don't know. It's a different transition into the late game. We got this ultra heavy army. Widow Mine's gonna burrow. No splashback so far, but also no surround, which is much more important, I would say. Byun is able to move out of that, and now stand his ground against the ultras to some degree. Repair. He's focusing on the army fights. His Marauders got fungled. Oh no, the repair comes in a little bit too late. Corrosive Bile take it down. Byun falls down in supply, falls down in economy. And that was actually a pretty important moment right there. Byun not prepared for the onslaught of units. Very nearly gets surrounded, but then gets fungled. I think the surround was already good enough. Even though it didn't fully surround, it once again put the Terran in a more difficult position to micro, to stutter step, to get that final concave that the ultras are usually then a little hesitant to run into. So that was already a good fight to begin with, I think. Now Byun can recover. Same as I said in the first game, kind of. There's going to be 1 or 2, maybe 3 situations where that can happen, and Byun can recover, assuming he has his bases up and running. But obviously his 4th was killed, and his 5th, I think, was delayed. This one I saw a 5th over there. I think it was brought back, but it might have died. I'm not sure. This is a large Zerg force, but it is running, I think, into a better prepared Terran army. The Planetary could cancel and lift. There we go. Liberator's siege up. Fungal once again hitting the Bio army. Ay. Oh, that was the ticket missing, man. Byun gonna stand his ground, but this time he lost his tanks as well. Something that he was hoping would kind of push the defense over the edge, I suppose. Planetary is gonna get up and running. But this has been Byun on 3 base for a very long time. SHIN comfortable on 5, going to 6. 81 drones, even more on the way. Byun really needed to make the stand on the 2nd Planetary, I think. The first one, like I said, it was like, okay, maybe you can still recover from this. The 2nd one, not dead, but still heavily delayed. And such an army trade, too, thanks to the Fungals. Very close resources lost game. Bad sign for the Terran. Viper is going to come in and help out, too. Maybe a Parasitic Bomb. Maybe a Blinding Cloud. Either way, a little helpful. Woodamines, there are a lot of them. That is a Woodamine field right there. It's going to be an orbital, not a planetary, as he looks to lift rather than repair and defend. Here comes another engagement. Shin going to try and move in. A little bit of a split, a little bit of a concave. Blinding Cloud does affect the army fight. Orbital not being lifted. Byun has to focus on the micro. Does take down one ultra, but two more looking for the chomps. The fungal once again hitting. Seems like it is game over. Byun not able to replicate the first game of the day, or of the series. And Shin looks very good. This is very good macro games. I wondered if the fungals in the first game, if they were more consistent, if they had come out earlier and more consistently, if they could have made that game Shin's. This might have kind of little answered it. Very, very different pacing, very different late game composition, but still, those fungals are very important. GG's Shin 2-1 advances to GSL. Byun has to go to the round 2 losers, which he might still win and might still go to the GSL.